I am so excited to have this two-part series on crystals. Just a little background around the solstice. I was working with just a few of my favorite ones, and this big sort of charge in a, I don't have a good word to describe it, a surge or charge came through around a lot of the languaging that I think maybe is common, but certainly languaging I use around the use of crystals, like, oh, something's really beautiful, something's really nice, it's working for me. And not that that's bad or wrong, but the way it came through was a little bit of a physics lesson in the understanding of the nature of self, and then all of the mineral realm of the earth, and how a lot of this is around the reclamation of this, if we choose it, is around understanding the relationship of something that vibrates and resonates on us on a cellular level very differently from us. And a lot of this was around how we relate to this layer of the earth. So a lot of it around relationships. And the funny thing is, the way I was seeing it, it was they were like coming alive for me, and I was getting a lot of other sort of sensory experiences. But and while that's fantastic and cool, the big thing for me was this seemed like I don't know, like a hidden in plain sight type of secret. Because they're everywhere in metaphysical shops. We probably all have crystals in our house. And so how they are supporting wherever each of us find ourselves, that's sort of what this first piece is, this first session is. So I've sort of playfully called it the Song of the Crystals. So I just have a little bit of stuff to share. And I thought we'd do some like fun stuff, and then we can chat at the end. So one of the things that the learning that was coming through for me was learn to listen to the song of the crystals. And I was like, cool, what does that mean? And so it felt like a new Spotify album, like available now, listen now. So it's now something just seems more available. And what I understand is that there's an art and a science to crystals, just like there's an art and a science to like humans and plants and any type of alchemy. And to understand the science, I actually went back to the Vedas. So in Vedantic text, so part of Tantra, for example, comes out of a newer version of the Vedas, but part of the cosmology and the structure from the Vedas tells us that there is Earth, 7 worlds above and 7 worlds below. The 7 worlds above are lit by the sun. The 7 worlds below, the underworlds, and underworlds aren't hell, they're just the underworlds. They are lit by crystals. So crystals communicate and hold solar, scalar, cosmic frequency, and the crystals of the underworld illuminate all of the underworlds. And so the relationship is actually that of providing light, warmth, and nourishment to all of these worlds that are not able to access sunlight. And so I found that in the spiritual sense, really illuminating. Like, most of our crystals don't glow in the dark. So this idea of illumination is more from our inner eye and our inner senses. And so the sciences sort of come from there. And in our modern sciences, we know that each crystal is different. They have their own, mineral composition that gives them their design. Some of them are magnetic, most of them are not. But the cool thing about them is that they have this fixed, regular, repetitive geometrical pattern that always repeats itself, which is very different than any of us, like that's different than plants and animals and us. Like we'll grow new hair and hair will fall out, we'll feel something, and our emotions and our quantum field functions very differently from crystals. They do what they do with a sense of constancy and consistency, and that's how they're able to vibrate in this perfect geometrical pattern very fast. And so that is in contrast to us. We vibrate, I think, at around 5 to 6, like more closer to the Earth's field. And so what that feels like is I can have, Sharon, you were talking about how you experienced like a time hole or a time warp today, right? Like I can start my day feeling happy and I can end my day feeling tired. So obviously crystals don't go through that. And so with their constancy, that gives them a certain geometrical pattern. And this is what we understand. It gives them a certain geometrical pattern, and with their composition, this gives us the information about which crystal is good for what. This is a grounding crystal. This crystal helps you with communicating with your angels. This crystal is good for sleep. All of that has this layer of science to it that comes from its chemical composition, which is what we've been talking about, its frequency and how its cells sort of, how its molecules and electrons vibrate inside. And then the last piece to me is depending on the composition and where on the earth it's found, the uniqueness and structure. The last thing is the ancestry it holds. And by ancestry, I don't mean ancestry for us, which goes back to our human family members. This is Earth ancestry, which is potentially the millions and billions of years with heat, pressure, creation, elements, fossilized elements of plants, animals, flowers, and insects that are an embedded part, that become an embedded part of so many of these crystals. And all of that tends to support how a crystal is made, and more importantly for this exploration that we're doing, how we get to know and explore ourselves when we are held by something of this constancy, right? So a crystal like this is a sodalite. You can see it has a lot of colors and it has a particular geometrical shape. All of the composition of this is very different from a double pointed clear quartz. And so the nature of how we use them, the nature of how they serve us, and how we listen and attune to each of their songs then becomes different. And I loved it when I was sort of researching this a little bit as well after I got some downloads, because, you know, we say crystals as like one body of things, just like we say human as one body of things. But the emotional, physical, mental, ancestral land composition of what makes each of us is unique. And so if one of us didn't speak English, communication would be different, and someone would have to learn the language that we communicate. And it's sort of the same thing we're getting to here. So I find this very sweet thing that like crystals are helping us in our humanity by being exactly what they are, crystals. A lot of us work with crystals in the feminine aspect. We love them for their beauty, for their clarity. We may have them around our house to beautify our space and sort of feed our feminine spirit. And that is a big and important part of it. And with that comes this understanding of the balance between I need to do spiritual things and being them. So this is the difference between looking at all of the possible songs at Spotify and being like, which song do I want to listen to, thinking about it, and then actually hitting play and doing nothing else but sitting back and listening to our favorite song to completion. I mean, obviously we can do the dishes as well, or we're listening to our song, but there's a real, just because of the frequency that is now available, that they are pulsing out, I find that the way it hits organic matter, like the way it might affect, not in a bad way, but affect us, is that when these waves, sound waves, energy waves pass us, just like light waves, we may feel a whole range of intensity. That could be tiredness, that could be elation, that could be, if we're working with a crystal for something, like I'm trying to find my voice, I'm trying to heal my relationship with my mom, I'm trying to launch my business. All of the things that are sort of stuck within me unconsciously, they may also get pushed up and pushed up to my consciousness. And sort of like how a lot of crystals have these layers, we also have layers. And this is a deep rising of what has been buried. This could be energies that aren't even ours, that we just carry from society and ancestry and things like that. By their nature, because the mineral realm is found so much deeper than plants and animals and fairies and angels, the level of depth and the time span of ancestry that we can now access to heal, to transform, is much different than a lot of our other, divination tools or tools we may use to help us as we meditate, heal, and transform. So that was a level of understanding that I think I may have rationally had, because it makes sense. But I got to sort of deepen and see this a lot more. And sort of the how of this. And this is where, to me, the science ends and the art begins. Because the art is the art of relating. And the goal here is not to relate to crystals in this perfectly lovely fashion. They are, the way I saw them was, I always use them as tools. Like when I was like doing a little solar ritual or a lunar ritual, I'd have them as these tools. But I now understand them as technology. And by that, I mean, if you want to know the weather, you go to your phone and you pull up the weather app, and it informs you of the weather. And then you can maybe make certain choices about what you take camping with you, or what you're going to wear, if you're going to grab a jacket. And so I sort of joke like crystals are the original app, because again, there's this geographical time space, there's this deep ancestry, there's this stability and constancy that is very polarized to our ever-changing constitution. And so if there's an app for every question you have, there's a crystal for every moment in time that we find ourselves in. And I find that awesome. I find that incredibly supportive. And the work here is learning to relate to ourselves, to our environment, with these pieces of technology that either amplify, diminish, expand, or contract us, led by our mastery and our intention. And so the healing, that the sort of the song of the crystals, as I hear it, is this: we have been so patterned for a long time to relate to each other, to ourselves, to the divine, to the world, to everything, from a place of separation. And in separation, we're separate. I can say I like you or I love you. You are different, I am different, and there's a little bit of like maybe some love between us. But part of this healing, part of the shift, part of the ascension is all of us coming to realize and remember oneness consciousness, and oneness by means of I love you because I am you and you are me. That is a very different way of relating to your houseplants, to your dog and cat, to your friends, to your work, to your crystals, to your business and project that you're putting out, and to how we are walking in the world. That is what is being healed with technology that can actually amplify us and our intention enough to do that. I sort of see this, and like, please forgive all my analogies that come from tech, because I work in it. So it's like you picked a day and you decided to, from start to finish, reformat your entire hard drive, pull up every file, every cookie on an internet browser, every single thing that formed your digital baggage, and you wiped it clean. Or you started the process of wiping it clean, right? This is because you can and it's not an effortful activity. You're just sitting on your laptop doing this, right? Like that's the amount of effort. And so because we have technology, we have commands, we have a URL, we have the delete button. Each of these things are unto themselves a piece of technology, which again, I'd liken to each piece of crystal that we wear, that we have around our house. And so the difference, the cool thing with like our laptops and our phones is the decision to do something, I want to open Netflix and watch a thing, I want to find out about crystals, is me as the master consciousness inputting a command, a direction, an intention. And it is actually very similar, I think, to how we work with crystals. The difference, though, is because everything that is organic of the earth has its own energy frequency. Instead of just, here, do this, and then it does it, that's the inorganic, right? Like artificial intelligence would do that, your laptop would do that. But here, we are relating from quantum technology to quantum technology of a very different nature, in a slower, and our speeds of how we vibrate, our electrical fields that we have, that humans have or animals have versus crystals, are also very different. So this isn't just a ask and receive, as a give the command and receive the outcome thing. And so the relationship with crystals is also being reformatted to match, to allow our consciousness to rise in such a way that even we reformat. It's almost like when you hit delete on your laptop for a file you don't need, maybe you'd also delete an emotional attachment to something you've had for 14 years. Like, it's sort of like, imagine that relationship with technology. A lot of us get really, burdened, maybe a little bit afraid and nervous about many different aspects of tech in our world. It's going to control us. It's going to be like Terminator. It's going to be this, that, and the other. Maybe so, but as creators of our life experience, that is actually up to us. And I think that can feel really scary. It can feel intimidating. It can feel like a big responsibility. But so is sitting at the next lunar cycle, choosing which crystal comes with you, collaborates with you, and either expands, contracts, pushes forward in time or backward in time or present in time, your intention. And so it's sort of using it no longer from this autopilot type of way. Certainly they're beautiful. Certainly they make us feel better. And this is how we access intuitively which crystal is going to come play with us. And this is how we get to reformat our relationship with the world. And in a sense, it's easier with crystals, right? You can reformat your relationship with another person, but they are their whole quantum organism unto themselves, right? So if you have an argument, then I'm like, oh, is it me? Is it you? Is it the thing? In that sense, crystals are a lot easier because they have the same constant, repetitive geometrical pattern. It's very unlikely that if I'm having a bad day, it's the crystal's fault, right? Unlike humans, where we might get into that, we don't have that here. So the mirror of ourselves is a lot cleaner. And around the Lion's Gate, which is different from when I started this journey around the solstice, a big new layer that is coming is the sense of union and collaboration. And I sort of went to some of these compound crystals we have that are tourmaline, galena, and crystal quartz, like a white crystal that's also green and pink, a crystal that has quartz with a whole bunch of other things, right? Some of these compound crystals, you get these really beautiful ones that have flowers embedded in them, and you have these lovely fossilite ones. And so this, to me, again, is that union from collaboration over millions of years. All of the environmental stress, pressure, stuff that is below the ground, things that are packed up, packed in, organic matter falls in and makes a pattern, a geometrical pattern that to our eyes is beautiful, but took a long time, how many, over thousands of years to form. I like this idea of union because the alchemy in a crystal is very different than the alchemy we experience. And so through these frequencies, we are now opening and understanding how to live in absolute union. And there is a crystal for every emotion. There is a crystal for every type, every aspect of life. There's probably 50 that can help us with that. Now, the goal here isn't to run out and buy 2,000 crystals and spend a lot of money. I really don't think it's that, because the frequency of all crystals on the planet is sort of vibrating in this way. And we have to keep in mind that even we hold crystal, right? Like our bones are calcium and phosphorus, which is together called it's called apatite. And so you can go to a shop and buy a crystal that's apatite, and the chemical composition of apatite is that of our bones. So even if you buy no crystal, wear no crystal, use none, simply because you have bones and teeth, we are already in that frequency is already within, literally within and around us. And so the work again is to start to listen to the sound of this. Everywhere we walk on the planet, you know, it may be a lot more dense if you live in a city like I do through concrete, but if you're out in the forest, if you're out in even like a larger park, all of this is available, like it is now available on the planet. And so listening requires actually that. It requires a calm heart, a calm mind, and listening and taking in the song of the crystals that has never stopped singing. It's just, I think our ears, our inner ears are attuning to it now. And this is where we start to access what I find really beautiful. We start to access what is often called our crystalline consciousness. Now, our crystalline, or some people call it their Christic consciousness, that is master consciousness. And I'm tying this to this move of the North Node to Aries. This is where master consciousness is coming in, and it's been coming in for a while. That part isn't new, but it's coming in a way that is actually practical, usable, earthly, because all these planets are also in the earth signs, right? And so the practical uses of accessing, honing, ingesting, and then living with our mastery consciousness in a loving way is a lot more easily available. Obviously, it's work, but it's a lot more easily available now than I would say it's been even when we started the summer. And so our job becomes to listen and to like someone tuning their guitar, right? Like you have all these different chords. And so we take our emotional, mental, physical as these chords, and we're just tuning to the harmony of self, so we can hear what comes, release what needs to be released, remember that we are our master consciousness, and have a sip of coffee and go to brunch with our friends and live our best life. So in a way, there's like a lot here, but it's already here. And there's like a great simplicity in the beauty and the relationship of working with with all of the crystal realm. So wherever you are, I'd invite you to close your eyes. And if you are holding your crystal, that's great. If you're, just notice how you're holding it. Is your fist closed? Is it just sort of lightly open? If you're wearing it, try and slow down your breath to where you are. Make sure you're seated comfortably, but there's no pressure on your lower body or in your shoulders. And before we start with the crystals, let's just take a few deep breaths, as deeply as possible, into our body. So one of the ways I like to do this is to take a 2-part inhale. And the first part is you take an inhale into your belly area and push your belly out, like into the belly, second into the chest, and then release that out. And so the rhythm is just belly, chest, exhale. Belly, chest, exhale. And it doesn't have to be a sharp movement, but you are pushing and inviting your breath. Belly, chest, and then exhaling it out. Make your exhales long. If you need to wiggle your fingers, your toes, move your neck, your knees, get a little bit more comfortable, do that. And then whenever you're ready, come back to your normal breath. And now with whatever crystal you're holding with you, or if you prefer, simply imagining that the ground that you are sitting on or the chair you're sitting on that is upon the ground, it is the earth, and it is this ginormous crystal in itself, made up of every element of the mineral world. So notice things like the temperature. If you are holding your crystal, if you're wearing it, is it hot or cool compared to your skin? Is any part of you clenched? Or are you soft? If you're holding it or wearing it, what do you feel in that immediate area of your skin or of your hand? And then without this being a cerebral thought exercise, what do you feel maybe in your other hand or in another part of your body where the crystal is not? A lot of times when we are working with something that's new for us, there's this sense of, there's almost a layer of uncertainty. We don't know how to work with something. And so I would say that there is an act of permission that we need to give to ourselves. Permission to not know, permission to explore, permission to recognize that we already are all of the elements of the cosmos. And allowing ourselves to recognize that we are simply tuning to certain elements of our own constitution. And so with that, whatever crystal you have physically with you, you are imagining, maybe it's around you, maybe you're holding it in your hand. Allow yourself to surrender, if it feels right for you in this moment, to the nature and the composition of this gift of the earth. And maybe that means there are waves coming out of the crystal and you allow them to permeate your being. Maybe it means that as you hold your body up, it starts becoming this crystal. Maybe it starts becoming a pure, clear crystal quartz. Maybe you start becoming a little piece of amethyst in a cave of amethyst crystals. Maybe you start becoming the color of turquoise. Feel it move through your body, your bones, your organs. This is not a permanent place. It is a temporary reformatting. It is a temporary action where we are reformatting. More than the visualization, feel into it. See if you're holding tension in your jaw, in your knee, in your mind, and see if you can relax into that. Keep breathing, and if it feels right to inhaling in that two-part breath, belly, chest, and then exhale, do that. Breathe in a way that allows you to soften into your own crystalline consciousness. The crystal that you started with and the crystal that you are now becoming may be different. That is okay. We are working to access and anchor our individual Christic frequency, our crystalline structure, our individual I am consciousness. And so as we breathe deeper and deeper into our roots, into our pelvic floor, into our deepest, darkest, most shadowy parts of ourselves, into our most illuminated parts, our breath is the bridge that steadies us. And it is our consciousness that gives permission and access to allow this frequency in so that we remember who we are. Nothing in you is new. It is just remembering it differently, seeing it, feeling it differently. So again, as you breathe in, soften, 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 soften into the earth, soften into yourself, soften into the appetite that is in your bones. And listen, taste, smell, feel, see whatever lies there for a moment. As you continue to breathe, know that you are breathing as much into your physical body as you are into your crystalline consciousness. As it is established and anchoring here into you and through you and around you in ineffable and unknowable and magnificent ways. And that you are always able to come back and attune to the truest nature of yourself. All you have to do is listen to the song and the frequency that you know to be true, that you know to be you. As you take your next few breaths into yourself and feel into your physical body, very lightly notice if there is now a change or a difference from when you started. Notice the temperature of any jewelry or piece of crystal that you're holding, or simply your own body temperature as compared to the chair or the ground that you sit on or the air around you. When you're ready, we can come back on Zoom, but know that your breath responds to your command, your mastery, your intention. And so now you can choose to breathe more fully, more deeply, as you have been throughout the rest of your day.